Hello, everyone. My name is Rayshaun Pettit. I am an NCASM Fellow Cohort 5. I am a junior microbiology major from the University of Maryland. And as a microbiology major, I know most of you are probably like atmospheric sciences, oceanic sciences type, but as a microbiology major, I'm pretty sure there's, as I'm sure you all know, there's still a lot of intersection and interdisciplinary approaches that people from different majors can come together and collaborate on tackling different problems that we face as the world, but most importantly, climate change, which is real. Some people don't believe it, but it's real. It happens. Lots of things going on around us. Which brings me to my point of evaluating the effectiveness of pilot membrane-based advanced wastewater treatment system.
Try hitting the power button, maybe, top button.
Okay, sorry about that. So a little background on one of the main issues that I'm sure you're aware, the human population is growing exponentially and has been for some time now and continuing to do so. With that being said, this puts a very large strain on a lot of our finite resources. Now, that coupled with the idea that climate change is happening and real, one of the side effects of climate change is significant droughts in various areas. In fact, it's estimated by a lot of research has shown that by 2050, approximately half of all people will experience some sort of scarcity in their residential area for about 1 month annually. Which is kind of scary to think about, at least to me, but it's okay. Don't panic. There's lots of different people around the world working on trying to alleviate this issue. But one thing I want to bring your attention to is that the city of Westminster, for those of you who may or not be from Maryland, it's a city in Maryland. They've been actually experiencing recurrent droughts for the past few years. So a lot of their governmental officials got together and was like, hey, how can we fix this? Which brings us to the question, how can we alleviate this almost inevitable issue of water scarcity as the population continues to grow and our water supply is being less and less consistent? Now, this brings me to our idea of wastewater recycling. How many of you have heard of the term toilet to tap? Okay, cool. Wonderful, wonderful. So the idea of it is that basically you take wastewater, you purify it, and you basically give it back to us to reuse as like tap water, basically. So there's 3 types of water recycling. There's non-potable reuse of wastewater, which essentially is you purify wastewater enough so that you can use it for various like irrigation, agricultural practices. So you're not drinking it or anything. And then there's direct, which is it's treated directly, purified, and then goes straight back to you to drink and do whatever you use water for. But the main, I guess, more common one is indirect potable reuse, which is basically you treat it and you mix it with like a reservoir, another body of water, which then can be purified later and then used for drinking and other types of things, water as well, which is what which is what we're basically going to be focusing on for this wastewater treatment. Talk about in a second. So my lab group at the University of Maryland partnered with the Tech Engineering Corporation and the City of Westminster to evaluate the effectiveness of a brand new wastewater treatment plant system using a series of new filtration techniques that is supposed to remove all the harmful pollutants from the wastewater and basically make it so that it can be reused again as tap water for the residents of the city that have been experiencing recurrent droughts. Some of these processes include microfiltration, reverse osmosis, granular activated carbon, UV disinfectant, and other advanced oxidation processes. And ultimately, the purified wastewater is going to be returned to the local Cranberry Run Reservoir, which is local reservoir, which they get their main water supply from. So from this, you kind of see what it looks like up there I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. So this brings us to hypothesis, which I kind of split up into 3 different sections. One hypothesis is that that the plant will effectively remove bacterial, viral, and other pathogenic species from the water, which is what my lab focuses on, seeing so microbiology. But the other 2 hypotheses are that will significantly reduce concentrations of various pharmaceuticals and personal care products like your lotions, your oils, and all those things, toothpaste that you wash down the drain normally, and other types of products. And then lastly, the last hypothesis that will remove various heavy metals and other things that can make you sick if ingested from your water supply. So how are we going to measure this? I could go into specifics later for time's sake, but essentially what we do is to measure the effectiveness of this wastewater treatment plant. We take samples from different periods, different points along the process of purification, and we take them to our lab and analyze them and see if there's bacteria growing, essentially. So take the samples, put them on we put them on agar plates, allow them to incubate 24 hours, and then we count the colonies and do some calculations to see how many bacteria were originally in that sample to get the colony forming unit CFU per 100 milliliters that were in the original.
Sarah, how are you?
And then later on, we're still in the process of doing this, but we're going to extract the DNA from these bacteria samples and see how diverse the pathogenic organisms are that are found. And I forgot to mention this earlier. This is still ongoing. So all the data that I'm about to show you is kind of like up until like February, but we just have to pause. And there's like a whole other section that we have to do. But yeah. So here's some results. One of the main bacteria that we're focusing on is coli. What we did is we took raw wastewater as kind of like a control to see, how many bacteria are like coming in, and then if it's able to effectively evaluate how effective it is. And I mean, you can kind of see like raw wastewater has like these high numbers in like the tens of millions, but all the counts for the actual filtration process is predominantly mostly zeros, which is a lot, right? Except for like a couple of numbers here and there, but comparatively, like got millions versus 3. So it's doing a pretty good job. And then we have total coliform, which is another type of bacteria species that we've analyzed. Same thing, you can kind of see like the raw wastewater coming in. It's like really, really high numbers, and comparatively, you see majority of them are 0. You got a couple of them are kind of high in some spaces, but still comparatively, it's really, really a lot less than the raw wastewater coming in, which means it's being very effective at removing a lot of bacteria. So, what does this mean? According to our tests, it's over 99.99% effective at removing coli and coliforms from the wastewater. So yeah, I can't say 100, but very close, very effective. With this being said, we have a high probability of implementing this to full scale in the future after we do a couple more tests and get it confirmed with the other types of filtration, like the pharmaceuticals and heavy metals, which I unfortunately do not have data for. I apologize. But yeah, so it's pretty promising outlook for the future, and hopefully, if implemented at full scale, we can help alleviate the drought issue and supply a lot more concrete and consistent water supply for the civilians in Westminster. And if it goes well, hopefully other places as well that may experience drought due to climate change. So, yeah, my references and acknowledgements.
Questions?
So someone who's from Maryland, I go to Westminster a lot. And I was curious, I saw, your data is quite recent. Are
Yeah.
you looking at historical data as well and comparing the two?
That's a good question. As far as I'm aware, I don't think so. I mean, I've only seen like the most recent. The higher ups that are like mainly in charge, they might, but as far as I'm concerned, I don't think so.
Right, okay.
What have you analyzed, like, I guess, the cost of implementation for this? Like, is this something that's realistic to be implemented, I guess, nationwide or worldwide, or is this, very expensive, or maybe only a select few areas in the nation might be privy to this?
That's a good question. I feel like short answer, once like we get more data and like finalize everything, we can, well, that's like a cross that bridge we get to type of thing. But I feel like long term, it shouldn't be like too much of like an expense thing, just so like the benefit of it is like so great, like long term, I think. I don't know if that really answered you. Did it answer your question?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you can.
So I think federally, you have to clean your water regardless if you're drinking it again. So the system is probably already there to clean it. And so out in California, they do this, they clean it and then they drink the water, they put it into the drinking supply. But there are side effects of that. They have, it makes the water very hard and it builds up calcium deposits along like faucets and taps. So have you noticed any sort of side effects from the process itself?
It's actually funny you say that about, I have not, but in terms of like the calcium and like making it hard, like I know one of the filtration systems actually addresses that. So I mean, the issue probably like won't go away, but I mean, it's definitely a lot less than what it would be for like standard procedures, if that makes sense. Yeah. Did I answer your question? I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what the answer is really.
Yes.
I saw what you said about there's it's not 100, it's not 100% cleaning of the water, but it's very close to it.
Yeah.
And that made me think of like the hand sanitizer and stuff, how it gets rid of 99% of the germs. But do you think it's possible to get rid of 100% of any nasty stuff or problems and something like that?
Personally, I feel like, yeah, I feel like it is. I just feel like it would just take like certain procedures and things that you have to do. But yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. Yeah, I definitely think it's possible.
Yeah, so one of the things I saw you mentioned was the pharmaceuticals. And so how effective would it be to actually eliminate drugs that are actually needed into toilet water? Because if you can't actually filter that out, which you can't, what are some of the ways that they're thinking about eliminating pharmaceuticals from drinking water?
So actually, I'm glad you brought that point up. One of the filtration systems that they have implemented, it's called reverse osmosis. And from at least my understanding, what I've been told, like research about like, how it works, it's that like the filters are like the holes are like so tiny that only water molecules can go through. So like theoretically, like that's like one of the ways you could like prevent like the pharmaceuticals, like those like pharmaceuticals and things like those like a lot bigger molecules, so they like can't pass through. So I guess they would collect and then be disposed of later on. So I guess that's one way. And then there's the other chemical things where they like alter the water and like take things out. But yeah. So yeah, I mean there's ways around it. Like,
Yeah, I know reverse osmosis is really expensive. So
yeah.
I was just curious.
But
You could do it, but it'd be highly expensive.
yeah, one of those things.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. We are out of time.